Thank you, Jason. Oh, wow. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I want to start with a show of hands. How many of you have ever used your phone to pay for your tab at a restaurant? And these lights are pretty bright, but that's like 80% of this room. You know, if all of you would have used the technology from my first company, I may be sailing on a yacht right now. The first company I co-founded was we built a mobile payment platform that was tailored towards the restaurant industry. As far as I can tell, there's been no other technology that's come out that can rival what we built. However, I'm sad to report that that company is now dissolved. So when I ask myself what happened, the reality is we were too far in front of the wave, and we wound up getting crushed by it. So we founded this company in 2013, and it would be another 7 years before the market was truly ready for a product like what we had built. Rather than being able to usher in this wave of mobile revolution when it comes to payments, we're actually watching from the shores as others do it. All's not lost, though. I use this eye-opening experience as a lens for how I think about other revolutions in technology, much like the one that we're in right now with Gen AI. Any experienced surfer will always tell you that timing is everything. Being in front of the wave is just as boring as being behind the wave, and the true fun is had on the wave itself. I want to share with you the way I think about Gen AI in the hope that we can all ride this wave that we're experiencing right now together. Now, before I get started, I'm going to come clean. I've never surfed a single day in my life. But I can boogie board with the best of them, so I've got a little bit of street creds. What I have done a lot of, actually, is computer stuff. I've actually been looking forward to this moment that we're in for quite some time. During my studies at Georgia Tech, I was able to participate in research that actually underpins the foundation that Gen AI has been created upon. Through my professional experience, I've been able to be a part of multiple AI rollouts and help business navigate taking advantage of these technologies in order to create value. And right now, currently, in my business, I'm working to roll out Gen AI in an effective manner. And so I thought I would share with you 3 concepts that I use to control the advent of Gen AI in others' businesses and in my own. I want to start by talking about what Gen AI is and what it isn't. I then want to talk about a strategy for deploying AI within your businesses in a way that it can continue to evolve as the industry evolves itself. And lastly, I want to touch on using AI as a superpower, not a replacement. So what is Gen AI? In the simplest terms possible, it's a really, really good guesser. Whenever you're interacting with something like ChatGPT, what's going on behind the scenes is this probabilistic search for the next best word or the next best phrase to what you're saying. AKA, it's a very sophisticated guessing game. The power of this technology actually comes from the massive amount of data that they've been trained on. GPT, for example, is reported to have been trained on, I think, 1 trillion parameters and at a cost of north of $100 million. You can think of this data, this corpus of data that it has, as the many examples that it has in order to pull its guesses from. The more examples it has, you're seeing in technology, or all of these models right now talking about all the different parameters and stuff they have, but the more of that it has, the better its guesses can be. But still, at the end of the day, it is still just a guess. And so, by its nature, it's very probabilistic versus deterministic. And I think this is important to remember because most traditional technologies that you've interacted with in the past have all been deterministic, right? Given a set of inputs, you can determine by some methodology what those outputs would be. In a probabilistic world, you can't really do that. So, consider this. If you type 2 plus 2 into your calculator, which is deterministic, you're always going to get 4, every single time, no matter how many times you do it. Go ahead and try. But in a probabilistic world, you may not always get the same answer, right? I remember in the early days of GPT, it was being criticized a lot because people were saying it was dumb for not knowing what 2 plus 2 is. This is a bit ironic because the data that it uses is data that us humans have created, right? We're probabilistic as well. But we have an interesting trick up our sleeves called intuition and reasoning. That brings me to what Gen AI in general is not. If you give me 2 bottles of bourbon, and I already had 2 bottles of bourbon, there are 2 things that we know are true. 1, I'm very happy. Everyone knows that. 2, I have 4 bottles of bourbon. As humans, we can rationalize why this is true. We're not relying on past experiences that we've had to inform whether or not we believe this to be true. We can use basic data to surmise and understand and intuit why 2 plus 2 equals 4. The current state of the art for Gen AI can't actually do that. And I think that's important for everybody to remember as you're thinking about rolling it out into your business. I would encourage you to trust but verify. Trust that yes, it's been trained on a massive amount of data and it can produce robust outputs extremely fast. But you've got to verify that it's truly understood your intentions. And you have to bring your human intuition and logic into the mix as well. So, now that we have a better understanding of what Gen AI is and isn't, what's the strategy for deploying it into our businesses? Well, I'm always a fan of encouraging people to start somewhere small, figure out what's working, what's not working, and then iterate from there. The goal you should use to keep in mind is you want to get 20% of your time back or someone on your team's time so that they can then go focus that 20% of time on something that's more impactful or more beneficial, right? And so as you're thinking about all of the different ways that you can go about deploying this, don't try to start with everything all at once. For example, if you're in customer success, maybe think about using AI to help you answer more routine inquiries that come in. Or if you do marketing, use it to process this data. Let it do the heavy lifting. Let it be your superpower that's helping you rationalize all of this data. Well, not rationalize, only we can do that, but understand this data, pull out analysis, and then use that to inform how to make your campaigns more powerful and more in line with your audiences. And so that brings me to the final point that I wanted to make, which is I would encourage everybody to stop thinking about AI as a way to replace people, but instead think of it as a superpower, right? This one's important to me because throughout all historical contexts, every single technology revolution has come with the dire warnings of humans are irrelevant, jobs are going away. Tractors, they were going to replace farmers, and ATMs, they were going to replace all bank tellers, and computers, well, they were just going to completely replace all office workers. Yet as we look back now, we can see that those jobs, they didn't get taken away, they got transformed. And Gen AI, I believe, is going to follow the exact same path as all of the other technology revolutions prior. It's going to give us the ability to think more deeply about what really matters, strategy, connection, higher level things that only us humans have the capacity to do. And if we're not using, or if we're using Gen AI to take away all of this mundane processing things that could just be mechanized, right? It gives us the ability to focus on the future that's being ushered in versus being left behind rather than being left behind with the advent of Gen AI. So I would encourage everybody to take a look around at what you could do with just a little bit more time, and then deploy these tools to help you get a little bit of that time back. Even if it's as simple as using ChatGPT, very simple, very basic. You don't have to worry about any other products. Just use it and see if it can take a very data-intensive or a very time-consuming task off of your plate or someone on your team's plate. I believe that if we do this correctly, it's going to enable us all together to achieve greater heights as a species and as a society. And so I want to leave you with this. Timing is everything. And I don't think you can afford to be a laggard and wonder if you should use Gen AI in your businesses or in your personal lives. I think you really need to think about where to start. How do you make that first jump into it, and then learn what you can learn from that, and keep going down that path, because what's going to happen is these tools are going to become more ubiquitous. We're all going to have them. And so it's not going to be about the novelty anymore, about, oh, I used AI to do X, Y, and Z. It's going to be table stakes. And so I think that if we can do these together and we can work to develop a true sense of what we can be with that time back, it'll help us all get better, stronger, faster, and bring our teams and our businesses along with us. Thank you.